Hello everyone, I am Niharika John Mehra, your educator at Unacademy. Currently, we are doing this course changing active into passive voice, and in today's lesson, we are going to learn about past continuous tense. So, what is the format of sentences which are found in active and passive voice in past continuous tense is given along with the examples in this particular lesson. Coming on to a little bit about me, I'm a mass communication graduate and currently doing my post graduation in MA English Literature. I'm an English trainer at Unacademy and also a freelance personality development trainer. For all my lessons and other courses, you can follow me right here on this link. You can also click on the follow button, which is just below the video, and you will be able to access all the lessons and courses I have made till now on Unacademy. Let's start with affirmative sentences. So these are the sentences which are general statements or facts. In active voice, if I want to frame a sentence in past continuous tense, it will start with subject, the one who is doing that action, then was or were according to the number of subject. If it is singular, then was. If it is plural, then were. Then ing form of verb, which means we add ing in the last of first form of verb. And at last, the object on which the work is done. For example, Dave was kicking the ball. So this was an activity that has happened in past and it was a process that happened in past. Now Dave is the one who is doing action. Was, because Dave singular is singular number noun. Then kicking is ing form of kick. What is kicking? That ball. So it becomes the object. They were eating apples. Now they is a group of people who are doing something and it is plural number, that is why were. Then eating, ing form of eat, and then apples. If I need to change the sentence in passive voice, I will start my sentence with object, then was or were, then being, which is a fixed word, then verb third form, and then by plus doer. So I am repeating this point again. Whenever a sentence is changed from active to passive voice or from passive to active, we just change the verb form of it. That is the voice. We don't change the particular tense. We need to make sure that we should know in which tense a sentence is given, and accordingly we will change our sentence into active or passive, whatever it is asked. For example, over here, the ball was being kicked by Dave. The ball, which was object here, it came in the starting on which the work was done. It was singular, so was, then being, then kicked, third form of kick, and by whom? By Dave. Apples were being eaten by them. So apples here in active, it was object. It comes right over here in starting. Plural, that's why were, then being, then eaten, and then by them. Now let's see how negative sentences are formed in past continuous tense. In active voice, it starts with subject, then was or were, then not, then verb ing form, and then object. So negative sentences are sentences of denial, saying no to something. For example, Dave was not kicking the ball. So the person about whom we are talking, the doer of action, in this case he is not doing the action. So that will be in starting. Accordingly, was or were, we will put was, then not, then ing form of kick, and then the ball. Another example, they were not eating apples. So again, those people who are doer, they, the sentence starts with the subject, were not eating, ing form of eat, and apples. In passive voice, it will start with object. The sentence is going to start with object, which was present in active voice. Then was or were, then not, then being, then verb third form, and then by doer. So here we need to see whenever conversion is asked from active to passive or passive to active, the first hint that we need to go for is checking out the combination of verb. That will help us in changing the sentence correctly. For example, the ball was not being kicked by Dave. So this ball over here became starting of the sentence, and then we see further on was not being kicked is the third form of verb, and by whom? By Dave. So let's say, for example, this sentence is only given to me and I need to change the voice. I will see that the person who is doing the action is mentioned at the last. The thing on which action is done is mentioned in the starting. Okay, that means this sentence is in passive voice. Was not being kicked. This is telling me that the sentence is in negative plus in past continuous tense, because was and being is used along with verb third form. Another example, apples were not being eaten by them. So again, there is action of eating, and this action is done on apples. Apples is mentioned in the starting because it's plural were, then not, then being. Being and were, these two words are indicating that this sentence is in passive and in past continuous. Eaten is confirming us that the sentence is in passive voice, and by them. Then we see interrogative sentence. Now interrogative sentence are of two types. One type is when the answer is just yes or no. In such condition, active voice will start with was or were, followed by the subject, then verb ing form, and then object. For example, was Dave kicking the ball? Dave is singular, that's why we have started our sentence using was, then kicking ing form of kick, then the ball, object on which the action is done. Were they eating apples? Because it's they, we are starting sentence with were and then eating apples. In passive voice, again, was or were will remain same, but according to the object. This object is the same word or the same thing on which action is done, then being, then verb third form, and then doer. For example, was ball being kicked by Dave? Were apples being eaten by them? So we see here was is used according to ball, were is used according to apples because it is plural. Then we are using this word being, then verb third form. So basically this particular format of verb or the combination of other helping verbs and main verbs, it will tell us the sentence is in which voice and which tense. Next we see interrogative sentences which have a long answer or detailed answer. Answer is more than yes or no. In active voice, it will start with WH word. WH words are the question words like what, where, when, why, and how. Then we will put was or were according to the subject, then verb ing form, and then object. For example, why was Dave kicking the ball? When were they eating apples? So when such kind of interrogative sentence come, what we do is we keep why when this WH word is kept as it is. Also, it is used in the starting of the sentence, right away in the starting. We don't have to do any changes with that WH word. Then later on we follow the format of active or passive voice, whatever it is given. In passive voice, again WH word will be there, followed by was or were, which is according to object now. Then being, then verb third form, and then at last by doer. the one who is doing the action. For example, why was ball being kicked by Dave? This why remained as it is. Here ball is singular, that is why I have used was. Being, third form of kick is kicked, because here it was kicking. We know the first form is kick. And third form of kick is kicked. That is why kicked is used here. And by whom? By Dave. In this manner, we have created a sentence. Then when were apples being eaten by them? When remain as it is, were is used because of apples, okay, not because of them. Then being, then eaten, third form of eat, and by whom we will mention at last if it is given. And at last we have the fifth category of sentence, which is sentence with no doer. That means we are asking question to know the name of doer, to know who has done that action. In active voice, it will start with who, followed by was or were, then verb ing form, and then object. Now, if I have a little idea that the doer is in singular, I will use was. If I have a rough idea that doer, it could be more than one people, I will use were. For example, who was kicking the ball? Who were eating 5 apples? So it entirely depends upon if you know or you have a slight hint about your doer or not. Otherwise, you can use was and you can even get answer of more than one subjects. In passive voice, sentence will start with by whom, followed by was or were. Now this was or were will be depending upon number of object, which is written after was, were, then being, and then verb third form. For example, by whom was the ball being kicked? By whom were apples being eaten? So here was is used because ball is singular, were is used because apples, this word is plural. In this manner, we create sentences in past continuous tense when it is a sentence, a question asked to know who has done the action. Now, this was about past continuous tense. We don't have passive voice when it comes to future continuous tense. So, please do remember that when we are talking about continuous tense, we do have passive voice for present and past. But there is no passive voice for future continuous tense. So that was one thing I wanted to tell you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for more lessons and please don't forget to rate, share, review and recommend.